Alright, next Psycho film in the franchise release was Psycho for the Beginning, which completely ignores Bates Motel. Because in the Bates Motel TV movie from 1987, Norman Bates is dead, and that's only a sequel to the first one. So, of course that's omitted and ignored. Because that movie was so bad, and nobody liked it and nobody cared, because it was a TV movie in the 80s, and nobody remembers it, especially the fact that we've got a TV show called Bates Motel now. So, completely forgotten by the sands of time, that Bates Motel movie, but it came out before Psycho 4, so I wanted to point that out. But the next Psycho film released was Psycho for the Beginning, another TV movie, but a really theatrical TV movie that actually is really good. It has a lot of great technical aspects to it that make it really not seem like a TV movie, and it really, honestly, is another great sequel in the Psycho franchise. Like, I love the first two, and then 3 is really good, and then 4 is just as good. Like, I'm really surprised rewatching these, because I've always loved 1 and 2, but then rewatching 3, I thought, man, I like this a lot more. And then 4, I liked it a lot more as well. Each of these films do a great job of making Norman Bates, like, giving more about him, but it's so interesting. It keeps elaborating on what this character is, and you feel so much sympathy for him. And Anthony Perkins, of course, is great and incredible in all of these movies, and he just, again, no matter what movie it is, like, in the franchise, he sells it. Like, and this is his final film in the franchise, because I think he might have died right after this, or close to this. Maybe a year or two after, I can't remember. And it's good, and it shows how great of an actor he is, because he was literally struggling, dying with AIDS while this movie is being made. Like, he was literally dying, and you can't tell that. Like, he's that good of an actor. Like, I love that. He really gave it his all in his last film. And funny enough, Mick Garris, the guy who directed, like, Sleepwalkers and Riding the Bullet, 2 really bad movies, even though Sleepwalkers is entertaining, he made this, which is a very serious, non-comedic one. Like, not comedic in a way where it's so unintentional. But this is definitely the best one I've seen of his so far, Mick Garris, unless I've seen other stuff of his, but the only movies I can remember on top of my head are Sleepwalkers and Riding the Bullet. But he did a great job in this. He did a great job as director. And the basic story is about, in this one, a radio talk show is interviewing Norman Bates, who calls himself Ed, which, again, Norman Bates is based on, like, Ed Gein, so it makes sense. But Norman Bates calls in and calls himself Ed, and you learn a lot about him. And this one doesn't outright ignore 2 and 3, but it doesn't talk about it that much. But still, it's good that they did it this way. They didn't have to flat out ignore them because of the Mrs. Spool thing. They don't mention it, but I don't think that it's not completely out of canon. It just, like it said in the movie, there's a woman at the radio station who says to the main woman who's talking to him the whole movie, she says that the Bates Motel is going to be demolished after the last murders a couple years ago. So that makes sense, because Psycho 3 was a couple years before this. So I like that they still have connectivity to it, and even though, again, this is another writer or director who didn't like... No, it was another writer like Psycho 3. The writer in Psycho 3 didn't like the twist in 2, so he wrote his way around it. And in this one, the writer didn't care as much for 2 and 3, but it still makes them canon. They just didn't like it. And I love when writers can do that, because a lot of times in horror movies, they just don't care, and they will completely just erase continuity. This one, it's just skirting around the fact that they don't like it, so they don't bring it up, but it still, quote-unquote, does exist in this canon. I think it's a really cool thing that somebody who didn't like the other ones kept them in canon. I love that. You should do that for these franchises. You can't just flat out ignore them, and I hate that. Halloween's one of the worst franchises for that. But this is a good franchise for that. It still keeps them in canon and references them. And this does a fantastic job of being a prequel movie to the first one. And it does a fantastic job with Henry Thomas, who plays young Norman Bates, and Olivia Hussey, who plays Norma Bates, the mother. they are incredible in this movie. I really, really love them both. Like, they are perfect for, like, the younger versions of them, even though we got the Bates Motel show, which is fucking amazing as well. But I like how it starts out with it's like on the radio talk show. Norman calls in. He talks about all these things that happened in his life leading up to, like, his mother dying. And he has the first kill with this girl he wants to have sex with, but then his mother is already so dominated by him that, like, he kills her. And it's a brutal kill. It's really actually disturbing. You don't see much, but it's disturbing with Henry Thomas wearing the mother wig, just blood all over his face, just going, like, it works. It's effective, and it really gets me. I really like that first, like, flashback to it. And it has a great insight into how Norman's dad died when he was 6, which is funny because Bates Motel does the same thing. I don't know if he was 6, but he was close to that age in Bates Motel. But it does it to where Norma is truly fucked up, and it shows how she tricks him. Like, during her father's funeral, or his father's funeral, her husband's funeral, she tickles Norman like to make him laugh during the funeral of her husband, and then she does it. He does a snort, and then she slaps him and says, "Do you have no respect for the dead?" And I'm like she is literally purposefully making him do this. I'm like, fuck you, like, that's horrible. And she does that to him, and then she, like, locks him in the closet, and because she like arouses him, or like they're on each other, like, playing around, like, and his mother, him and her playing around, and, like, he gets hard, and then she freaks out. But it's her fault. Like, why would you do that? You're fucking this person up. This guy is literally fucked up now. And then she screams at him more and says that you're gonna forget you have this thing. And then she puts him up in woman's clothing, which is what he wears in all the franchise, the mother outfit. And he puts him in a closet and makes him think that he's a girl. And again, like, it's just such a great delve into why he's so messed up, and it makes him so much, again, a great sympathetic character. Like in Psycho 2 and 3, you feel so much sympathy for Norman Bates. Like, he's this psychopathic killer, but, like, it's not his fault. He was born into this trap, as he said in the first movie. Like, he was born into this trap of having this horrible mother who fucked him up in every single way. And this movie does a fantastic job of building on it. This and Bates Motel, they're different in a lot of ways, but they both have a fantastic build-up in how Norman becomes so messed up. And I love both versions. And this version is really underrated, honestly. Nobody talks about this one because we got the TV show, which, again, is fantastic. But this one did it first. But I liked how the Bates Motel show just improved on it. And it's just so uncomfortable with things like where she seduces him in a way, and then she gets mad at him for it, and it makes me so angry that, like, you see every reason why this person becomes messed up, and you see how horrible this mother is, and horrible and how she always messed with him, and just she gets angry at him for no reason as well. Like, and there's one scene where it just pisses me off in a way where it makes me feel in the movie. Like, I like how it gives me a reaction where, like, she gets so angry at him because there's gonna be a new freeway where Fairvale won't be like they can't get to the motel anymore, and she's pissed, and she screams at Norman, and her line is great where she says, "I should have killed you in the womb. You almost killed me getting out of me." And I just love how it makes Norman so angry at her, but, like, it brings that resentful relationship that he has with his mother throughout this franchise, where he loves her, but he hates her as well so much. And Norman starts to lose it, where she starts bringing a guy in, this guy Chet in this version, and it makes me mad in how she seduces her own son sexually and makes him repressed and not understand what to do because he was at a young age, and then she brings in this guy over, and that means that he is angry about it. So I don't know, like, it makes me so mad. And then he has it just makes me so angry that like she does this and elaborates on something that isn't right, making him like her in that way, but then she brings a guy in to make him even more fucked up. And it makes me so angry. But then we get this great kill with like Norman with this older woman who he makes out with and almost has sex with. But then he strangles her because mother's of course always watching. But like he strangles her, and it's great because it brings along more of why this character will be like, he gets more and more pissed off about his mother, and like he imagines his mother kind of in that woman, like how she is an older woman like he likes and he's getting sexually attracted to. But that was a great moment where like he does that, and then the movie gets closer to the end where it does a cool side by side thing, or not side by side, but where like keeps cutting back and forth to Anthony Perkins Norman in current time, where he has a wife now and a kid, almost had his kid, and he's afraid that the kid will become like him. It's genetically possible that that it could be inherited to where the kid is crazy, the baby. But while that's happening, it's showing Henry Thomas Norman, where he goes and poisons Chet and Norma, where they mentioned in the first movie and a lot of other Psycho films in the show, where they say that he poisoned his mother and her lover in bed. And it just does a fantastic job of showing that in this. Like, it really does. And it does a great job of cutting between older Norman and younger Norman, and how whenever he does the deed, whenever he kills the mother and the boyfriend, then it has Norman in current time, where he is so scared that his baby will have the same problems that he does, like if he could genetically have the same issues. And the Norman goes into the Bates Motel that's about to be demolished, and his wife follows suit, like older Norman. And I love the fact that he goes in there scared out of his life, and again, it just shows how great of an actor Anthony Perkins is. But his wife comes in and tells him and tries to convince him, like, this baby's gonna be fine. Like, what about me? Like, I don't have any problems. Like, this baby might be perfectly fine. And Norman just didn't even think about that. Like, his wife, the person he married, does not have any issues, like psychological issues. So the baby could be fine. But I love that scene, and it really shows just like a great full arc for Norman. And then he and her leave, and they burn a lot of the Bates Motel down because he started to light it on fire. And then, but I like the fact that Norman, before he gets out, he makes it out of the Bates Motel, but I like the fact that he keeps having hallucinations when he was younger of all the people he killed before the first movie, like his mother, Chet, the girl he wanted to have sex with, and the older woman. Like, I love how it shows all those different kills, but they say something that haunts him and scares him to where he has an obstacle to get out of this burning house. Like, that's really cool, and just how that's made and how that scene is structured. But I love the fact that, like Psycho 3, he says it again, like he's finally free. But this time the house has been burnt. Not all the way down, but it's been burnt up. And I love how, at first I was annoyed at the last couple seconds of this movie, because I thought it was implying that Mrs. Bates was a ghost, but then I'm like, no, I'm stupid. It's a metaphorical way of showing that Mrs. Bates is locked up. Because in the last couple seconds of the movie, it shows a rocking chair in the burning house, and then you hear the mother say, "Norman, let me out," and then the doors to the crawl space close. And at first I thought, did they do a Bates Motel thing where they think it's a ghost again? But then I was like, no, it's just a metaphorical way of showing that Norman is finally free, and his mother, like, metaphorically is gone. Like, she is trapped. Like, she can't get out anymore and haunt him or mess with him. And then you hear baby cries, and the movie ends. And I really think that this is a really great sequel, again. And I love the fact that it's a TV movie, but it does not in any way feel like a TV movie. And even though I can slightly notice the cuts that would cut to commercial, they do a great editing job where, like, you can tell it's right there because the music cue gets big and it stops, but it doesn't take away from the movie. The movie still feels very theatrical. It looks theatrical. it's got all these technical looks that make it look like a movie that would be released in the theaters, but it was released on like Showtime, I think, in the 90s, in 1990. But man, what a fantastic way to have Anthony Perkins go out. Like, just a great final movie for him. A great movie that elaborates on Norman's past and it really feels like it comes full circle with Norman and having a wife and having a baby that could become what he is. But I love the fact that he doesn't, that you don't know if the baby does. Like, you don't know. Like, you hear the crying at the end of the movie, that's it. So, could be, but I really love this movie. I think it's really fantastic, really underrated, and it has a lot of similarities to Bates Motel, like I said, with Chet, like having a boyfriend like that, and how Norma messes with him psychologically, except for this version, Olivia Hussey's character, Norma, in this movie is way more vile and way more pushy. Like like Vera Farmiga's Norma in Bates Motel is fucked up, but like you get her issues, and she doesn't angrily lash out at Norman all the time. She does it when she only has to. In this version, Olivia Hussey's character is just vicious at Norman, viciously vicious at him, and I love how there's two differences between this and the Bates Motel show with that thing, with the Norma character. So it has a lot of similarities to the show as well. But speaking of the show, I'll talk about the show definitely in depth after I talk about the Psycho remake, or the Psycho clone in color. Gus Van Sant's 1998 Psycho that came out after this. So yeah, let's talk about that pointless movie next, and then I'll talk about Bates Motel. But yeah, I just watched the Psycho remake, and man, just it's again what it is. But yeah, that's the next one up, is Psycho 1998. So thanks for watching. Hope you'll watch that one.